And there they are. Those are the follicles right there. Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome to the vlog. I hope the start of your day is absolutely incredible. As for me, we are going to be teaching you guys a little bit about snake breeding today. That's right, in particular about ultrasounding snakes. Have you ever wondered how we know when a snake becomes pregnant? Well, we use an ultrasound, and I am going to have a good time ultrasounding some ball pythons and just kind of getting an idea of what things are doing here and where we're at in the breeding season right now. It's going to be absolutely incredible, and I hope that I can teach you guys something as we go. What do you say we have a great time with that and just push all our problems aside and enjoy ourselves for the next 12 or 15 minutes or however long this vlog might be? Can you do me a favor? Go down in the comments and just let me know how your day is. You guys know I love interacting with you, so tell me something that I want to know and let me know how your day is. While you're down there, can you smash that like button for me? Let's get this video over 5,000 likes. I know you guys can do it. I have faith in you. What do you say we check out some ultrasounding and get this day started? And before we get started with ultrasounding some snakes, let's go ahead and just talk about what an ultrasound is. I'll show you my ultrasound and what we're doing, and as we're going through and ultrasounding stuff, I'm going to tell you why I'm doing it and what we're looking for. So what we have here is my ultrasound machine. This happens to be a SUI CTS 3300. Now there are a bunch of different types of ultrasounds you can use. This one is kind of high end. It's like $10,000 to $12,000. I mean, there's some that can cost $100,000, but you can certainly find one for $1,000 or $1,500 that works pretty well. So basically what you have here is this is the actual ultrasound here, all of these fancy buttons and of course the screen. What we have here is actually conducting gel that really helps the conduction of the electrical waves that I'm going to talk about in a minute. And of course this is a probe, or what they call a conducer, and I'm going to get into that in a second as well. This one happens to be 7.5 megahertz, and basically the megahertz is just how deep it actually scans. This particular unit here can actually go from 5 megahertz all the way up to 10 megahertz, but the probe itself is 7.5. So how does an ultrasound work? The transducer, or the probe, directs ultrasound waves into the body, through the skin, into the internal anatomy. When it encounters tissues with different characteristics and density, it produces echoes that goes back to the piezo crystals that are in the transducer or the probes 1,000 times a second. Those echoes are actually transformed into electronic signals that the computer converts into lightness and darkness on the computer screen. Okay, so before we get started and I actually show you how we do ultrasound and exactly what I'm trying to achieve, I just wanted to say that we always do kind of a starter ultrasound at the beginning of the breeding season. So we'll breed for like a week or two, and then we go through and do kind of what we call a base ultrasound. That way we get an idea of where all the females are. Now, you really want to start breeding really at about 10 to 12 millimeters. That's the kind of point that you're looking to get into, although there is some argument, and I happen to fall on this side of it, that sometimes breeding an animal sub 10 to 12 millimeters can actually cause them to grow follicles. It's the kind of argument that does follicles cause copulation, or does copulation cause follicles? I actually will continue to share my philosophy on this. I think that copulation causes follicle growth, which causes increased food amount, which causes more follicle growth, and then causes more copulation, and ultimately ovulation and production of eggs. But that, I'm not going to throw that all at you at once. So what we're going to do right now, Kelsey has our first victim here, and of course this is a het for clown ball python that's being bred to an albino clown. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you where we find the follicles, and then I'll show you how we're going to measure them. So about halfway down the body, a little bit further than halfway down the body, you're going to find a gallbladder. And it's basically a big black dot that's going to show up on the screen. Once you find that gallbladder, attached to that gallbladder is actually the oviduct. And that's where the follicles are going to grow. So the first thing you want to do is just find that gallbladder. And there they are. Those are the follicles right there. And so what I'm going to do is just try to freeze frame on the follicles right there. And you can see right there, that is what the follicles look like. We're going to measure the distance on here. So we're going to bring up our cursor, we're going to take it right to the edge, and then we're going to come all the way over to the other edge. You can see that's at 9 millimeters, and that's where it's at. And remember, I mentioned you want to breed at about 10 millimeters, so really she's right at that cusp of 10 millimeters. She's at 9 millimeters. Now Kelsey is actually going to mark on our cages right here. We'll always mark the breeding on one side and then follicles on the other side with the date. That way we always know when we ultrasound it and what the actual follicle growth is at that particular time. And then we start to make more educated decisions about how we're going to breed them. And basically, literally, we're going to do this over and over again to every single one of our female ball pythons. And as I'm going, I'll start talking to you what we're seeing, how things are going, and what the philosophy is going to be. Because if everything is at 9, 10 millimeters, that puts us at the very beginning of the breeding season. But what you'll see is some stuff is at 8, 9, 10, some stuff's going to be at 5, but some stuff might be at 15 or 20. So we'll really get a good idea of where our females are in the whole cycle department. And again, I'll continue to tell you what I'm thinking as we're going along. But for now, we just have to ultrasound a bunch of females. And this pinstripe here is a perfect example. A lot of the ones that we're ultrasounding right now are right in that 10 millimeter mark, which is kind of the beginning of the breeding season, pretty typical. But this girl has much larger follicles. Let's go ahead and just measure how big they are. They are at 17 millimeters. This animal here is another great example, and this is why you've got to go through and scan each and every animal if you're looking at doing ultrasounding, because one animal can be 10 millimeters and the next one over can be 16 or 17 millimeters. Sure enough, I scan this girl here and she's all the way up to 17 millimeters. Now, ball pythons will typically continue to feed till about 20 to 25 millimeters. So the idea is now with a girl that's at 16, 17 millimeters is to feed her as much as I can, because if I can get some really good meal into her, I always say calories in, production out, she's going to probably grow to that 22, 25 millimeters within the next probably 2 to 3 weeks. And then at that point, she goes off of food and it's almost a lock for production. I still have a lot of female ball pythons to ultrasound, but I wanted to take a quick break because yesterday I talked about maybe picking out 1 or 2 animals and following the entire process of breeding from the beginning all the way through ovulation and then egg laying and even hatching. So I wanted to actually pick 2 animals out. One that's in the very beginning stages of follicle growth, so she may or may not produce, and one that's got a little bit more follicle growth that's a cool breeding, so I'm pretty sure she's going to produce for me. The first one is going to be this girl right here. This is that Ghost Pastel, which is basically a hypo pastel. The hypo is a recessive mutation. The pastel, of course, is co-dominant, and she has 17 millimeter follicles, and she's bred to a Ghost Honey Cypress, which is pretty cool. So there should be some potentially really cool offspring there. So I'm pretty sure she's going to produce, because once they hit 17 millimeters, they're well on their way. The kind of number that we always talk about is 22 or 23 millimeters, but she's probably only a couple weeks away and she's already been bred. So I'm feeling pretty good about her potential. The other animal that I'm not as sure about, but I still love this animal and I wanted to go ahead and just see what happens, is this girl right here. Of course, this is a blue-eyed leucistic, and she is such an awesome animal. I remember when I hatched this snake, how much I loved her. It was pretty rare back then, and to raise her up, she's actually produced like 4 or 5 clutches for me, maybe even 6 or 7, to be totally honest. So she's a really good producer, but she's only got 10 millimeter follicles right now. So that's one of those things where it's so early, I can't say for sure if this girl is going to produce or not. I'm just not 100% sure, but she is being bred to a super enchy pinstripe. So the super enchy means that everything's going to be enchy, and of course there's going to be some pinstripes in there, and of course she is actually a lesser het russo, so there can be all kinds of combinations of really cool stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and keep you guys updated at least weekly of what's going on with my blue-eyed leucistic and my Ghost Black Pastel, so you can follow along and you can kind of feel like we together are breeding these snakes. And hopefully here in another 4 or 5 months, whatever it might be, we are going to be celebrating baby snakes together. So Kelsey had to run off to the vet. She actually had to take her pet rat because it's just feeling a little bit down. So please send positive vibes to Kelsey so that her rat is okay, because she absolutely loves those animals and it's so cute. It really is. This happens to be a het ghost and it's bred to a pastel mimosa. So you guys are stuck with me alone here. And again, I'm just going to continue to teach you guys all that I possibly can when it comes to breeding these snakes and what I'm looking for. This girl has 10 millimeters. And again, when I've looked at the last 4 or 5 racks of snakes, that's typically where I'm at. Baseline seems to be about 10 millimeters for these guys right now, which again is what I would say is at the very beginning of the breeding season for us. In all honesty, I wish they were at about 15 or 18 millimeters because we're already in the middle of January. But the truth is what's going to happen is we're probably just going to produce babies a little late. Now, last year we were a little bit early, to be honest with you. So this year we're going to be a little late, I think, but that's okay. As long as they're producing follicles and the follicles are growing, we can definitely have a really good year. first off, I wanted to tell you guys, I hope that you don't mind that this vlog is kind of more of an educational vlog. I hope that you guys are learning and not too bored with what I'm doing here. You know, basically, ultrasounding is just one of those things that's that difference between science and art. If you haven't seen the vlog on breeding snakes as a science or an art, go ahead and watch the video from yesterday and it kind of explains a little bit more. But ideally, what I'm trying to do is just, again, get that baseline of what's going on. What you'll see is right now, things are at about 10 millimeters overall, which is basically when typically it kind of spurs a male on to wanting to breed a female. With that being said, I've mentioned before that sometimes when you breed a male to a female that is sub 10 millimeters, it causes her to pop the follicular growth to above 10 millimeters. So it kind of encourages follicle growth when you get a copulation with a male. But not all males want to breed females that are sub 10 millimeters in follicle growth. As a matter of fact, from the science side of things, a lot of breeders that use the science only technique won't even put a male in unless she is 10 or 12 millimeters. So again, that's where I'm kind of on that fence, right? I'm a little bit 50-50 when it comes to art or science. I want to use the art of breeding to try to grow those females' follicles to 10 or 12 millimeters so that they will continue to grow, and at the same time I'm using the science to see what animals are at 10 or 12 millimeters. So again, I kind of go on both sides of the fence when it comes to science or art. Alright, so there it is, ultrasound day 1. We got through about half the females. I can tell you this much, with Kelsey here, it moves a lot quicker than if I'm jumping around myself, but nevertheless, we're almost done. We'll finish up tomorrow. We'll get a great baseline. Like I had mentioned, a lot of animals in the early stages of follicular growth, but we had several animals that are getting more advanced for sure. Breeding is going well, so all in all, we're off to a good start to the year. We definitely should have a lot of babies. I tell you what, I absolutely love this stuff. I mean, the art, the science, the just kind of figuring it all out. This time of the year is always exciting because your kind of expectations are so great. The truth is, it's probably halfway through the breeding season, you start to realize that some of the animals that you're so excited about producing aren't going to produce, and it's kind of a little bit of a downer. That's just the way it is. But at the beginning of the year, your expectations are always the highest, and it's always the most exciting. So we're off to a good start, but we have a long way to go. And with that said, I am going to go ahead and end the vlog here. Again, I apologize if you guys got bored with the kind of educational part of this vlog, but hey, every now and then I like to take you guys on an in-depth journey and what my mind is like about breeding reptiles for a living. So I hope that you guys enjoy. Let me know in the comments if you like it or don't like it, or there is a question that you may have been asking yourself that I didn't cover, because I'm happy to always teach you guys. I love it, and I can't tell you how excited I am for this year's breeding season. Thank you so much for tuning in today. You guys mean the world to me, and your support is so incredible. I love you guys so much. Can you do me a couple favors before we get out of here? Can you smash that like button for me, as well as turn those post notifications on so you know when I upload a video, which is every day, 7 days a week at 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern Standard Time. Remember to be kind to someone today, and I promise I'm going to see you guys tomorrow.